Welcome to Who We Are. I'm your host, Maya Kalaria. Decolonizing the power of narrative, Who We Are centers the voices of the global majority, people who have experienced colonial harm and marginalization. Those who may have lost connection to their cultures, lands, ancestral heritage, food, spiritualities, languages, and much more through colonization, and are now reclaiming their connection to their roots. This is a living archive for stories of struggle, hope, and healing from systems of oppression. It focuses not on what we do, but on who we are, a bridge between the legacy of our ancestors and those who come after us. So let us bear sacred witness to the stories that have silently lived inside our bodies. Stories that long to be told and heard. This is who we are. Hi, Dany. Thank you so much for joining us on Who We Are, the podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you here. And I wanted to start by asking you to introduce yourself and also to share the lands that you come from and the people that you come from.
Thank you, Maya. First, I want to also share that it's a pleasure to be here in space with you virtually across the world from each other. My name is Dany Srey-Snow. I'm on occupied Duwamish lands, the Coast Salish Sea lands in Seattle, Washington, in the U.S. And my lineage is Cambodian Chinese, mostly from the motherland of Cambodia.
Wow. And so were both parents and their ancestors for the last few generations, were they born and raised in Cambodia?
My mother and father were both born in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, which is the capital of Cambodia. And their parents, my grandparents, one was in China, one was in lower Cambodia, bordering Vietnam, and then others in, yes, Cambodia. But I also do have like lineage in Thailand as well.
Right. And where were you born?
Here in Seattle, Washington. Yes, so
Right.
I think that is what, second gen immigrant?
I think so.
Or
I get confused.
first gen American.
Right.
I always get confused as well, but to my knowledge, I've been calling myself second gen Khmer American.
Right. And when did your parents move over to Turtle Island / America?
Yes, they actually came here to Seattle in the 80s, escaping the Cambodian genocide, and they came as refugees. My father with my grandmother in the second round of my dad's side of the family coming. First, it was my grandfather and my other uncles, and then he was one of the eldest, and he stayed with my grandmother and his younger siblings. And then with my mother, they were all able to come together as a unit from the refugee camps. And I think they were in Thailand when they escaped Cambodia. They crossed the border to Thailand.
Wow. So there's a lot of quite intense history there.
Yeah, it's really sad to share that that's what they went through with everything that's currently happening right now in Gaza and also in Cambodia and Thailand as well. So there's just a lot of layers to unpack and to process today as well in this body. And yeah, sitting with a lot of emotions as I share that.
Of course, yeah.
Mm.
Did your parents speak much about their experience to you?
Growing up, no. You would get bits and pieces of what they experience. I think so more when they would scold me and my siblings,
Right.
just talking about the differences of blessings here versus what they experience. But there would be moments of pockets when it would just be over a meal of some games that were played in the refugee camps, or when they escaped in like ghost villages and their experiences with other refugees. For my father, at least, he tried to share playfully of how he survived. My mother, when you ask her, she would more so try to tap in, but there's always been like a blockage of the whole experience. When we speak about the war, she has like bits and memories of pre-war when she was like a young child, and she my mother in her early years, I think, grew up wealthy in Cambodia. So she would share how they had support and servants and a nice home. But when she talks about the war, like her mind kind of goes elsewhere. Um, and that, hearing myself say that, it makes me feel happy to know that she was able to hold her childhood memories and feeling safe and protected and cared for, and that the the harder memories are not things that she like ruminates on. As she is, as both of my parents are now grandparents, I have three young children. I feel like they're storytelling more to me, and my mom is definitely on her own wellness journey and has shared her early like meditation experiences, and they've been quite triggering. So I am able to like witness her and also understand why some of the unlocking is hard to access based off like when she comes to a space just with herself and like what she sees and hears. Yeah, uh, I didn't think that this would be this emotional to speak on their behalf. And I say that also um, because I'm just in a time of like having a space with my mom. And it's only been recent, but and it's with boundary setting, but it's making me understand why she's been a little hard recently and just how she's been parenting or her communication. But right now, it's just as I'm sharing, just allows for a little bit more empathy and understanding.
Thank you for sharing that. And I really
Thank
feel
you.
the weight of it and how much that they have carried, and how in some ways it's a blessing that the mechanisms that have taken place within your mum have not allowed all of the flooding to come back, but rather in stages, because it it is not a normal or natural situation to go through. You cannot make sense of something that is so senseless. And yeah, we're both in tears. But this is what the reality is. This is what your people have been through. And my father was a refugee from Uganda, and it was not a genocide, but he witnessed some stuff go on there too, and they fled. And there is that. I have some understanding of how locked in that trauma can be and how hard it is for them to talk about that, and how much they did try their best, even if sometimes it wasn't what we needed or wanted at that time.
Yeah. I didn't realize this was going to be a therapy session. It's a lot of processing, and I thought I've done a lot of work around this. But just to be able to share it in a space, again, with intention and consciously, I don't think you're never in, hmm, I'm just thinking about the figure of the spiral, just healing and living. It all just comes in a spiral, and I think I'm not sure where I am in that right now, but definitely experiencing. These feelings aren't new. There's a lot of resurfacing right now, and I'm okay with that.
Right. Which is really, really refreshing to hear, because not everyone is open or receptive or okay with those feelings washing through, those feelings of very deep emotion, sometimes a lot of discomfort, grief, pain, all of that. So it's really lovely to hear that you're okay with that.
Mm, thank you. Yeah, I think the feelings that I want to honor right now, that may not be like that aren't being expressed, is a combination of sadness and anger. And anger comes out a lot unconsciously through me, especially as a parent. And it's when that happens, I just see a mirroring of like my parents. And again, what you were saying, it's like the best that they could do in those moments with what they had, the tools that they have or had or didn't have, and giving them grace, and also just trying to give myself grace every single day, because the role of a parent is not easy at all.
No.
Um, and you won't know until you're a parent.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and especially with three, it's not for the faint of heart. My mother had four,
Wow.
and then my grandmother, I think, on my father's side had eight or nine. And I say that because she lost her youngest during, um, I think, the refugee camp. Um, so it's eight, nine, or 10. There was just too many, and I'm just trying to figure out with my aunt who passed. And then on my mother's side, there was just three. But with that being said, I feel strongly that I am an emanation of my grandmother on my mother's side. Just a lot of her qualities, her experiences, and I feel blessed to be reincarnated in her lineage while she's still alive, so we can have these parallels together.
Wow.
And yeah, I truly believe that being in my mother's womb when she was just only an egg, in my grandmother, there's that connection, and feeling generations uh, before that. I'm sure my daughter feels that too, with just holding so much within her as well.
Yes. And that means that you have been in Cambodia.
Yes,
You were there on the motherland long ago.
in the womb,
Yeah.
yes, even before conception, yes.
Yeah.
Even though I physically, yet as a living human, have not been back or have even stepped foot, but I've been there. And when I do arrive, it will definitely be a returning,
Yes, it
a
will.
coming home. Yes.
Yeah,
And it'll happen in divine timing. So,
it definitely will, as everything does. Wow. Wow. Where to even go from this, you know?
yeah, there's so many ways,
There's
so
so
many
many ways.
lanes for sure.
I
Yes.
kind of wanted to ask because we have kind of touched on the intergenerational trauma and that side of it. And I also wanted to touch on any I wanted to ask you if there was anything passed down in terms of language, mythology, family stories, food recipes. Like, what has been passed down to you, if anything at all, from your ancestry, from your heritage?
Mm. Yes. One thing for sure all across my waking life, food has been something that my families have never strayed from. Traditional Khmer cuisine on both sides. And that's how I knew I was Cambodian. And culture-wise, music, Khmer music, and I like saying Khmer. There's just for me, a romanticism with the word and pronunciation of Khmer. It's our language. It's what the Cambodian people call ourselves. We call each other Khmer. And in some areas of where you're from in Cambodia, you would say Khmer. And as an adult, reflecting back, Cambodian dance and music and the arts was, I think, something that really stuck out to me. I did traditional Cambodian dance growing up, and language. I did went to Khmer language school, learning how to read and write, and then you become assimilated into the American or the colonized culture, and you just want to fit in, and you just you drop those things, you lose those along the way. I do remember being very, very proud of being Khmer when I was the earliest as 5, kindergarten, show and tell. Like my thing that I brought was a Khmer cassette tape, while other kiddos brought toys. Yeah, their favorite toys. And I brought this Khmer oldies cassette tape just because I thought, it had so much worth and value, and it explained where it came from. And reflecting back on that, I'm not sure if it was well received, but I didn't feel proud after sharing that. I think I may have felt embarrassed and wanting to hide because I wasn't sharing those things that people understood, and it wasn't what a normal 5-year-old would bring. And also, I do remember bringing home lunch or bringing school home lunches and then switching over to like the school lunch because I just wanted to eat what everyone else had, and not wanting to bring Cambodian food to school. Cambodian food there's very thick smells, aromatics, and it's just not normal in elementary school, and assimilation and more like acclimation and wanting to fit in really starts at a young age.
Yeah.
It really does. What you wear, what you eat, what you're interested in, that's when you learn yourself, the self. And, from what 0 to 7, it's like everything is oneness, and then you have the all the different perceptions, other kiddos, parents' perceptions, and their dialogues from their parents, and that really affects you at a young age. But as an adult, I think that's where the reclamation process comes in. And there was a point where I was ashamed of being Cambodian, and I would make it a point to say I'm Cambodian Chinese, and just with just like everywhere else, there's colorism in the Asian culture in Cambodia, and you know, Cambodian, we are known as like the jungle Asians, the savage Asians, and now I wear that proudly on my chest, and um, I just want to tap in even deeper than and really understand what that means and how I can reclaim that. But yeah, also calling myself Khmer is my way of bringing a little bit more connection and romance to this culture that I became very distant from. And also reclaiming my middle name, my Khmer name, Dany. My first name is actually Victoria,
Right.
and my mother chose it from a soap opera from The Young and the Restless. And yeah, as an adult moving to Long Beach, California, which has the second largest population of Khmer folks besides Cambodia, and really just tapping back in, really wanting to learn about where I came from, where my folks came from, where my people came from, and reclaiming the culture and relearning. And not just because this is what I grew up with and this is just everything that we did, but just wanting to be aware,
Yeah.
and wanting to hear stories and learning where that's come or where that comes from. And my gateway back into my culture was actually through yoga and the Vedas, and realizing that there is an overlap in my Khmer culture and Khmer mythology and all the dances that we did that I learned and performed and watched. Um, yeah, I give a lot of my connection through the Vedas, through Hinduism, through yoga, and allowing me to fall in love with that, to be able to fall in love back with myself and my culture, and learning the different ways of storytelling of Rama and Rimkia. And yeah, so, and then realizing that also connects with my Chinese side as well. And then the mythology is all the same, and they're just dressed differently. They just look slightly differently just based off where they are in the world, but same story.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel even more connected, even and more proud to be able to follow this path and uncover the layers and find my truth through the many truths that there are. Um, so it's mythology, storytelling, and just all these different philosophies is my reality these days. That's just how I move through life and bring like romance to the mundane, is to connect with all the different archetypes, the deities, and just harness that, because I know that's just different emanations of me and everyone I get to see. And that is my ethereal way of connecting with the culture while being rooted and grounded through the food, the clothing, the smells. But the storytelling is just my way of opening my crown and just letting the channeling, just letting all the messages and channeling in. Um,
Wow. Thank you. That was a very, very rich, tapestried answer. And I just love how many threads there are there. And
Many threads, yes, woven in between.
yes, exactly. And I do want to revisit the reclamation part in a minute, but I just wanted to just pull apart a couple of those threads because there was a couple of things you mentioned when you were younger and you went to school. And I think this is such a
Hmm.
classic story that I hear across the board from people from the global majority who find themselves through, you know, different reasons, but mostly caused by colonial reasons or just systems of oppression in general. They find themselves in a very settler colonial or just very colonial white dominant society. And that becomes like what normal is, quote unquote. And then the child, similar to what you were experiencing, to belong, they shut down the part of themselves that is viewed as different. And kind of as a child, we see that as the global idea of normal. And actually, if you were born and brought up in Cambodia, you would be normal to
Right.
produce that tape and go, look,
Mm-hmm.
this is, that would be normal. But it's because of the alien sort of nature of the migratory pattern because of what was going on in your motherland, and how it kind of distorts this idea of like who is normal and what is normal when actually it's a settler colonial land and actually should, there are white people there that don't even originate from that land. And so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
are you guys normal? Is this culture normal? Like, because do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Now that you like reflect on it, I'm like, y'all are just different and weird and mean.
Yeah.
That's just what it
Yeah,
is.
because
Yeah.
on that land, what is normal is what indigenous culture, right? Like that is what
Correct.
is originally normal on that land. So
Hmm.
we as children, we absorb so much and we just take it as well, I can't say that and I can't be that anymore because like I'm not accepted and I don't belong and I want to belong. And so we silence ourselves and I'm so happy to hear that like you are on this journey of reclamation in such a deep way because some people are still stuck in that space of silencing who they really are. And
Hmm.
the other thing I wanted to mention is you mentioned about how Cambodia is seen as like jungle Asia. And I also wanted to flip that
Hmm.
around because it's because of what's happened to the country and because of what others have. There's been a lot of external forces that have actually trampled on and desecrated Cambodian land and Cambodian culture for their own means and have desecrated the label of who Cambodians
Hmm.
are. And it's such a rich culture. Like it is such a
Hmm.
beautifully rich and ancient culture. And like I I have had the honor of going to Cambodia and I went to Angkor Wat. I probably do you know how to pronounce
Hmm.
that? Because I'm probably not pronouncing it properly.
Yes. Uncle, what?
Angkor Wat?
What?
What?
Hmm.
And it is such a sacred, powerful place. And
Hmm.
to demean the Cambodian people by labeling that is just abominable.
Yeah, and there's still war over, our riches right now, and yeah, to label um our ways is unfair. Um, and I'm sure many folks have that experience with like their culture as well as it's just unfair, you know. And so I've realized that like you really have to just take it in your own hands and you have to really change your view and your own mindset. And like reclamation has been a really big word for me over the past 6 7 years because it starts with the body. um I feel like my body, my temple, is a mirror of like the motherland. Things just, you know over the years, just they just get stolen. Autonomy, and then your you're open and you're vulnerable. And it's not until you realize you have the power, the voice to reclaim all those parts. And you're basically reborn every single day. Every moment is, hmm, yes, it's a just new opportunity to flip the script, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and it's for the individuals who do that, who then make up the diaspora, right? And then we infiltrate the masses, and then that's how we reclaim. It's like really we have to become like a lighthouse. Each individual person has to become a lighthouse for um, for us to flip the script.
Yeah.
And then I think it's really hard because like we're a part of the collective and we want to change the collective. We want, and we have our duty to serve. But to do that, it's like really just having to start with yourself first, and just that is like what is in your control and how like you move. Um, and then that really just changes frequency, and things do really make waves and changes, and then you do start seeing the shifts in real time, and it's like magic. Um, but it's it's a science too. So yeah, just going back and wanting to really share that my body is a mirror of the motherland. It's a temple, and this land has been stolen at one point, and in ways that you just would never wish on anyone, and what the motherland and other lands in the world, like you would never wish that on anyone, and it reflects down to humans, and it happens like in nature, but it's like when you get online and you're conscious of your experience, that's I think when all this healing starts to happen, because then you just change your decisions, the way you move, and then it goes down to who you be in space with and your children, the next generation. And yeah, the word that just keeps coming back is like bringing romance to yourself. I don't know. It's self-love basically.
Yeah.
Um, and and self-acceptance. Honestly, I think it's just acceptance. Yeah.
Yeah. I could not agree more. And this is something that is so resonant. The inner, your inner climate, doing the inner work, changing how you perceive yourself, looking at your behaviors and patterns and the energy that flows through you, and working with that. I think that is such a huge part of the decolonizing process and the healing process, which I see as one and the same, to be honest, in this version of the world that we exist in, which is so
Mm,
sort of colonial. And I see a lot of people in the decolonizing movement that don't do the inner work and yet expect things to change on the outside, but they're taking those
mm,
unhealthy, unhealed patterns and just placing them somewhere else and
mm,
replicating and recreating that and expecting something to
mm,
change. And I know it sounds so cheesy, but like the revolution really does come from within. If we're not changed, we will not change anything. It has to emanate first, I believe. And so I really do resonate with what you're saying and live very similarly in that way, because it does change it does change everything around you when you go within. But it's hard. And I think that's why a lot of people don't, don't do it,
right.
because you have to sit with some real shit.
Yeah, it's hard to break your normal patterns and thoughts and everything that you've learned.
Yeah.
Um, and your inner dialogue.
Yeah.
Our inner dialogue is not nice,
It's not nice.
and people also don't know that it's not them as well.
Exactly.
And even, yeah, my inner dialogue is she's a mean girl. Yeah,
Right.
she's a sad, mean girl. And it's honestly just trying to protect the little girl that felt unseen, you know?
Yeah.
Felt unseen, unheard, felt abandoned. And she's still there. And also, I hear her like cheering me on right now. I see her jumping up and down and like super playful. Yeah, there's so many layers to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of layers. And, what's coming to mind is just my grandmother, the one that I say that like I am her soul reincarnated in her lifetime. Um, just because she's been through some shit and now she must be what, late 70s, early 80s. But the stories are just flooding every time I'm in space with her. And the hurt is just flooding, And and I've seen it like come through her body in like formations on her body. And especially right here, there's the blockage and it keeps growing. But I know her being held and seen in this space whenever she can speak energetically, that wound is just kind of cracked open and it's like falling off her body, you know. Um, and she is someone who talks to her bamboo. She hears her dad when the bamboo rustles, and she just knows how to tap into the body, tap into the breath. And it's, yeah, all these practices that is new age right now and just woo woo, it's all ancestral. Um, it's the rituals, the practices. It was like the way of life, and I'm seeing it. Everyone is just so far and disconnected, and I'm just very honored that I get to see my grandmother in real time, in her truth, so far away from her motherland, uncompromised of who she is, and um, just tapped in. If I could say anyone in this world is tapped in, and like she will just speak to you in song and in poem and in story, and no matter who it is, and you may not understand what it is, but you can feel it, you know. Um, and you're lucky to just be in the presence of like her embodiment. Um, and I owe a lot of who I am to her. So yeah.
Wow.
And her name is Dravi Prani Kuth Godet. Um, that is my maternal grandmother. So I am so sad right now just saying her name. And I just want to like say it out into the world that she will live on forever and she's still here with us. But uh,
Thank you for sharing her name.
thank you for the space so much. Yes.
No, thank you. It's an honor. It really is. And I'm so thankful that you shared her name and that I can feel her essence through your through your words. It is incredibly powerful. And I'm so glad that she also has you, because you are so honoring and receptive of what she is sharing, and you continue that, essence and that lineage, and it's so important. You carry that torch. It's just so beautiful to hear this. And I have said this before in previous recordings, but the term tragically beautiful comes up for me a lot, because when I hear this story, it's like there is tragedy and there is absolute beauty. It is both, and you cannot separate the two.
Yeah.
It is beautiful because of the tragedy, and yet one would never wish that on anyone.
Right.
It is a complex, grief-filled, love-filled, messy, spiralic.
It's so messy.
It's so
So
messy.
messy.
It is wild, but it
But yeah, that's the art, like that's why there's so much beautiful
yeah,
art, because life is dark, and like, and how can you, I don't know, how can you live with it, right? You have to find like the beauty.
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you don't, life gets really fucking hard.
Mm,
And it's hard anyway at times, but without the beauty and without the recognition of the blessings within the tragedy, within the grief, it is really hard. And so I'm really glad to hear you share this, that's how you live, right? And I feel that too. That's how I live, because it's not easy. It's not easy.
yeah. Being a woman is not easy. Being brown is not easy. Being brought up low income is not easy. And you really have to accept, so that way you can play with that, right? Because once you accept, or just like bring awareness to it, then you can start to play. And that's when life gets a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Um, because you have nothing, yeah, like when you start to play, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And you don't hold on to the labels as tightly. And you realize that they're just labels.
Yeah.
Everything is all just labels. This is all just a meat suit,
Yeah.
you know?
And we made it all up.
Right. Yeah. We all just agreed that, being a woman is hard. I think being a woman now it's a blessing. It's magical. It's my superpower, because I'm the superpower. And there's something about being a woman, but being a brown woman, or being a woman from someone, from something, from the earth. And when I think of being Cambodian, right, Southeast Asian, then I just think about coming from, we came from India, and then we also came from Africa, coming from the one people, the first people.
Mm.
And it, like, there's magic to that, and being a woman, it's the intuition, it's the unseen, it's the subconscious, it's the dark. And that's where you really understand energy, you know, and connecting with our cycle and the moon, which the man is on the 24-hour clock, and we just have a longer time to process and move. Um, and there's folks who say all of this just because it sounds poetic, but there is a truth to this, you know. They just, and I'm guilty. I first saw it in a book. I thought it was beautiful. That's what everyone was saying, until you really dive in and you realize your connection and where you come from, and you realize it's all real. The play is all real. And that's why I like to say I'm in my own utopia. I'm in my own dreamland. I'm in my own fantasy because I can call on these stories that I heard from way before all this lore, and I get to play it out in real life. And and that's when, or that happens when you accept yourself. You get to know yourself through the play and through the different hats. Um,
What's so beautiful about listening to you is that it's this really healthy combination of, it's not this dissociated, um, like a fantasy world of disconnection from what has happened or who you are
mhm,
or the pain. It's like it's a beautiful balance of groundedness in the reality, but also one reality which is like the physical, but then also the reality of the potential in the etheric and in the invisible realms. And I think when I listen to you, there's such a difference than when we listen to like the disembodied, like a lot of disembodied voices, in my opinion, in like the white wellness space, where a lot of these cultures have been appropriated, a lot of our cultures and practices, which were very rooted in the earth and a very real day-to-day disciplined practice. And it's become like these throwaway terms. But when you speak, it is, you can just know that it's real. And
thank you.
it's really wonderful because, yeah, it's not disembodied. It is accepting, like you mentioned Gaza, you mentioned what your grandparents and what your family have been through, what your parents have been through. And you're still playing with the potentials.
Mm,
But what we often hear is people just playing with the potentials and forgetting humanity, as
mhm,
in like the suffering
right,
that they and their ancestors have caused.
right.
And I think that's the issue that we see a lot. But it's really lovely to, yeah, to hear you just speak with such a
Thank you.
harmony around it. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, I believe and also experience that, you are as spiritual as you are grounded, like as above, so below, as within and so without, that type of outlook where it's like you really have to go through the muck to be able to tap in here, um, for it to work,
exactly.
for it to truly work, you have to you have to put your feet in the ground and be awake of like what is going on outside your window. I don't live in the most luscious, extravagant area of Seattle. I'm in the thick of it with those who are suffering around me, and I'm moving with them. And I, it's hard to see, sometimes you want to disassociate, you want to numb yourself and just like keep your blinders on. Um, and I think that's part of being human, right? Having the human experience when you witness, you get pulled into this frequency of pain. It's so real, and you can get stuck. I think that's how like energy and spirit works. Like there's all these different like souls, right? And when you're in that energy, um, then you just you're a part of it, But you have to have will. I think you have to have will to know what is you and what is not you, what is in your control and not in your control, and the potential, like you said. Otherwise, you just get
Yeah.
stuck. And I, and whether this is like the Western New Age world or not, and I do think the mass the masses, the mainstream, for making it accessible for people to just get a little taste, you know. I think Western wellness was how I was able to tap in because it was just easy. It was easy, it was plain Jane, it made sense, and that made me want to learn more and explore
Right.
and be curious, where does this come from? And realize it just came back from or back to our people, to my people, which brought me back to myself,
Right.
you know. But I do want to honor that, like, anything mainstream is in some capacity. I want to give it its flowers because it allows people who are scared to go deep, to have just a little taste, and it's on the person to want to uncover that,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
um I was talking to my husband that it's hard to be in like the wellness world and be in the arts sometimes, especially on social media, because everything nowadays is it's just the buzzwords, whether people know what they're saying or not. So I really appreciate you honoring the way I'm moving today and what is coming through. And, these it's hard to hear these buzzwords, um, because sometimes they're just thrown out there.
Yeah.
Um, and especially in the wellness and the healing world. Um, but I appreciate them as well because they served a purpose. And that's just how you can get everyone on the same page, whether they know what they're saying or not.
Mm.
And I was and may still be in that realm as well,
Right.
you know? Um, so I'm trying to find ways to speak more clearly that is true to me, and honestly trying to stay off social media. Yeah, and really just live life and have some realness. Experience the ugly and things uncurated. Even though I love aesthetics and the curation, but just being able to have it be boring sometimes and normal and,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you know what? I really hear what you're saying about, sort of Western wellness making everything kind of more accessible. And I think, yeah, and then it's everyone's responsibility to what they do with that information, right? And that's the thing. Some people go one way and they take it one way, and some people take it the other way. And for you, it actually brought you back. And then for some people,
Mm,
it takes them probably further away or whatever. But so it's
mm.
it's like whatever it's,
Teach your own, yeah.
yeah, each of our own. And it is, yeah, it's like that personal responsibility with what we do with that. And I really like your perspective on that. So yeah, thank you for that
Thank you.
perspective.
Mm.
And so we are coming to the end of our conversation, although I could chat to you for many, many hours.
I realize it's been so easy.
It really has. And I wanted to end with a question that I ask most of my guests, which is, what kind of world are you helping to create for those who come after us, whether it's our own children or whether it's just all who, all the generations that will pass through this earth, this life after us?
Mm. I think that's a beautiful question. And I am happy to say that I'm like actively working on this world, like this utopia, um, in real time. I have a studio with my husband, and it's called Studio 7117, which is our marriage date. And 7117, they're mirrors of each other, representing yin and yang, the divine feminine, divine masculine, Shiva and Shakti. And if I go back to the original intentions of why we created this, it's love, right? But all my offerings and different emanations of this space have transformed over time and how it looks, but it's creating a life by design that is true for me and really about autonomy and reclamation. Um, we just opened our new headquarters here in Seattle, in Pioneer Square, and it has been a third space um, in in the city, and you don't find that often in the city. And it's not often that you can find community in a fast-paced place and a place that's really congested. And this place has lots of loving care and intention and healing and ugliness in the space. A lot of ugliness, a lot of raw faults in this space. It's not perfect by any means. It's it's literally from the ground up, and it's made, you know, by my husband, myself, and my children and the people around it. And we've weeded through energy that doesn't serve the space. And I'm realizing that there's a space for everyone, and the space might not be for everyone, and that people can live a life by design by creating it themselves. It's a creative studio and sacred space and wellness space, and we create art here through film, through photography, through dance and storytelling. And there's also the wellness and sacred aspect through alternative healing modalities like Reiki, yoga, pranayama, meditation, and just circles, men's circles, women's circles, and just coming back to the roots, honestly. And it's in a city, which is crazy. It's in a city, and there's a lot of transplants here, but it's made for those folks. It's made for the locals who are from South Seattle, who really built Seattle, honestly. Um, the brown and black folks. And yeah, it's it's a living room. You take off your shoes and you sit on the floor and you look around and you see another world. Yeah, you see another world. You look around, you see another world. And I want to share that we had an experience last night. We've been hosting art walks here, a community event every month since we've opened our doors. And it's been at a place where I've been able to build it from behind the scenes and then be able to stay at home with my children and choose to stay home and be able to witness it through the metaverse and see everyone enjoy this utopia here in Seattle while I get to really cuddle and nurse and play with my children. That's the world I want to create, where all timelines exist in one, where there's no othering, and it all, there's just a spectrum of realities, and it can all exist. And that can look different for everyone. And that may be very esoteric or ethereal, but I think this message is to the folks who need it, and it will land with the right people. And to those people, I say thank you for seeing me and hearing me, um, because I'm on a journey of being seen and being heard and tapping into my worth. And yeah, yeah, thank you, Maya, for asking that question.
Thank you. Thank you for being the inspiration that you are.
Thank you.
I'm truly, truly inspired, and it has been so moving we've moved through realms, undoubtedly. And I'm sure whoever is listening has moved through realms with us. And yeah, I mean, words kind of fail me at this point. I don't want to, I just don't want to cheapen anything by, yeah,
Absolutely. And after I give Reiki to folks, I say words will be hard, and it's
yeah,
okay to just sit in the silence and just be, and I'm okay with that because I think it's usually a feeling that we get to tap into, and sometimes it's unexplainable. So I appreciate that as well. Like this, we definitely traverse through many realms and timelines, and I'm just very grateful to finally be here and speak with you after all the reschedules and the whole Mercury retrograde. Um, we made it, and I'm excited to hear the recording.
yes,
I'm just excited because, yeah, I feel like it's just been a journey of like tech these days, and I really live for like these conversations in real life. And I'm also just very grateful for tech because I'm able to speak to you and you're in London and I'm here in
yeah,
Seattle. So,
yeah.
yeah.
And on that note, I want to invite the listeners to sit with what you have just shared, in the sense that this kind of, whatever you're feeling, it's okay to just be with that. And sometimes we can't tie everything up in like a neat bow. And I want to thank you for bringing that piece into this as well. It's that beautiful kind of messiness where we don't always have the words. And on that note, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a pleasure. And yes, thank you.
Yes. Akun Charan Maya, Akun Charan, Kim Sum Akun.
Thank you.